dumbass.
He still had dude, he was an MVP candidate.
Still, I would rather go out on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
He's already a GOAT.
Well, yeah, but
He's the GOAT.
yeah, he is.
He's the GOAT.
He went to Michigan. Go Blue.
The only good thing to come out of there.
Yeah.
All right. Are we doing this?
Let's go.
All righty. Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Exchanges. I'm your host, Hayden Huber.
I'm your co-host, Cole Hazenfield. You like how I slowed that down?
I like that. I'm
Yeah.
feeling great tonight. How
I
you
was
feeling?
adding some emphasis. I'm feeling good. I'm a little rowdy tonight, but I'm excited because we have an awesome guest on here. So I'm going to introduce who we brought on to kind of just discuss business, life, motivation. We might hit some fitness stuff. I don't know. We're going to get kind of wild, but Heath Hoogerhyde is with us today. Heath has had a tremendous journey and he's a young guy, done a lot of cool things from being a two-sport star athlete. I'd say he wouldn't say that. I'd say that to get into the corporate world and then decided, hey, I'm going to go into business for myself. I think you've been in business, running your own company for about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, it'd be 5 years in July
5 years
as an official business.
And he won't say he's killing it, but I'll say he's killing it. And he's just got an unbelievable story. So, Heath, what can you tell me? I'm going to be specific for you, so I'm going to throw you a softball. What can you tell me that's kind of unique about your story? Because I kind of threw some stuff out there, but what would you say to somebody that goes, well, who is Heath Hoogerhyde? What defines him? Is there anything that comes to mind to that?
Well, I think the most unique aspect of how the business started was it was an accident.
Okay.
Straight up. In college, when playing two sports, I didn't have time for a job.
Right.
Like, I know a lot of people say that, but like I was playing two sports and being a student. So I really did not have time for, maybe I probably could have worked like 8 hours a week. But,
Right.
So once I stopped playing both sports due to injuries, I transferred back to closer to home, basically, Davenport University, and started buying. Well, I bought one truck and I did a bunch of stuff too. I painted rims, did little stuff.
Okay.
And realized I could probably sell it for a profit. So I sold it, and I kept doing that. I mean, at one point, I think I had 3 trucks. Still no job. So I have 3 trucks, but I have no job. And all I did was buy, sell, and realized all I'm doing is small cosmetic changes.
Okay.
Detailing them, painting rims, painting little stuff to make them more appealing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I realized that, I just put an ad on Marketplace back when you could do services on Facebook Marketplace.
Okay.
Yep.
Now you can't, which we won't get into, but it's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, just started from there and started getting business. And like you said, at that point, I had graduated, got a quote unquote good corporate position at Meyer, and just did it on the side, nights, weekends, whenever I had time, really.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I hated my job. I'm just not a desk person. I have to be moving and doing something. So,
Especially being a former athlete, right?
yeah, I don't know. It was something about just sitting stationary and manually doing stuff on the computer. It just didn't fit with me. And I mean, I started, having work every single night as well. So I was getting up at 4 o'clock, working out, going in the garage, getting something done before I had to be to work at 8. Then I'd obviously come home around 5, work in the garage till 10. And it was a repeat cycle for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
And it was hell. Like, it sucked.
It was tough.
And the worst part was, like, weekends were the time where I could do more for the side hustle than I could during the week, obviously.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So even weekends, I'm just
grinding. You're putting
stuff.
cranking workout.
Yeah. And I started to gain traction, had work, I had something to do every single morning and night, whether it was going downstairs to back then, like sand rims and get them ready for paint the next when I get home from work or something like that. And I just simply put started making better money doing something I wouldn't even say part-time.
Right.
2 hours in the morning, let's say, and 4 hours at night, 6 hours a day. Than a quote unquote good job out of college.
Yep.
So I just saw the potential and said, screw it.
But you did just to jump on that. You were hustling. You were hustling hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. I would say, it was a grind, like straight up. It was tough. But it was also something that I started to enjoy. Like, I was never a car person growing up. Mm-hmm. I wasn't like, oh, dude.
That's what I was going to ask. So you didn't grow up like...
Never.
Wow.
Until I always wanted a truck.
Yeah.
Like, country boy. Always wants a truck. Yeah. So I finally got a truck, and just little things. Like, I could tell you exactly what I did on my first truck. It was an 04 Ram. I painted the rims, painted the grill, painted the bumpers.
When you say you painted the rims, like, you just grab a can of spray paint and you start...
Yeah, back then.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I drove that truck for a year, sold it for, I don't want to throw numbers out there, but.
We like numbers.
Okay. No, don't make them do that. You flipped it. And
I flipped it for a really good profit for having put miles on something. Right. And
you made money. You made money off of it.
Yes. And I think the next one was from Akron, Ohio. Did the same thing. I actually drove down here for a different truck, and the guy did not portray it the way it was.
That's the worst.
And I was pissed because I was like, I just drove down here, cash in hand, 5 hours. So I said, screw it. Mm-hmm. I have the money in my hand. Got on Marketplace, found a better deal, and that was my biggest profit. I sold that thing before I could even get it titled in my name.
Really?
Like 3 days, gone. Yeah.
Wow.
And I detailed it.
You just cleaned it up.
Yeah, and I bought a new center cap for one of the rims because it was missing.
So for folks listening in that don't know much about cars or detailing, what would you describe, or what's the definition of detailing a car?
Such a broad term.
Yeah.
Such a broad term. When I started, make it look better. Yeah. Clean it up, clay bar it, polish it. But now I've gotten to the point where after research, trial and error, so many things, experience, that now it's like paint correction is, if you had the budget for me to spend 60, 70 hours on your car, I could make it perfect. Yeah. It's going to take all that time.
Right.
But like, paint correction is broad too, because, you could polish a car and it's going to look 10 times better just because you're getting every contaminant off the clear coat and you're making it shine. Whereas you could go in depth and say, I'm going to start with 1,000 grit sandpaper, wet sand the whole thing. Then I'm going to go to probably 2,000, 3,000, then 5,000, then buff 3 steps out of it. Right there, you're talking 30 hours. Easy.
Wow.
Yeah. So so that's why I say it's a broad term, because it really depends on what you're doing. When I started, like I said, I would clean cars, essentially.
Yeah.
But, so when you started, so I want to come back to that, because we keep on talking. You keep saying when you started, and I'd like to, for the listeners and for me to understand, because I'm still like learning about your story. And you say, okay, I was working the corporate job and I was doing this as a side hustle, right? And you're like, I was grinding, I was putting in the work, and at one point you were like, okay, I've got so much work backlogged. And when did you see that opportunity? Like, what clicked with you? Was it? Did you see it and also know that it was a big risk? Was it? What was that turning point when you decided, hey, I'm going to take this on full time?
I think honestly, it wasn't even that I was like backlogged with side business. I just saw the profit margin standpoint of it. Okay. And said, imagine if I did this like 60 hours a week,
right,
instead of however many I was putting in, and realized if I did it 10 hours a week, I'd probably still be making what I'm making
at your job.
So you had to look at it in that perspective, and I had nothing to lose. what am I, 27 now? I was 22 years old.
Right.
Like, when's the best time to do something risky?
Right. When you're
young.
when you don't have responsibilities.
Yeah. I mean, now my wife was my girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
We lived in an apartment, which was my first shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. The apartment garage.
You told me some stories about
oh, dude,
people would get pretty mad when you had a lot of cars parked out, didn't they?
Oh yeah. The neighbors. Yeah. We had to be efficient.
Taking up parking spots. I'm
It
sure
really
that pissed
was.
off people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
But it wasn't often. It was just like every once in a while. If you got 3, so I moved to my parents' garage.
Yep.
Private neighborhood, and every weekend there's 6 trucks parked in the driveway that I had to figure out a way to get done. And then I didn't have my first shop until I actually moved into the first shop. I think it was like 3 or 4 days after my wedding. So, but back to your question, I don't think it was one thing that just clicked and I was like, okay, we're doing it. It was the accumulation of, okay, if I'm going to move up in Meyer and be a VP back then, when I was looking at that and like, okay, yeah, I'll hustle, I'll get it done, corporate life. None of the VPs at Meyer, 0 of them, worked their way up in Meyer.
They were hired from outside.
Yeah, they were hired from outside. So I'm like, okay, I could work my ass off every day. Show up. I work 10 extra hours a week. It doesn't matter. And in retail, I feel, and some other businesses, but I feel like it's taking my experience from here and going there to leverage it, right? So you're trying to move X amount of places to increase your pay.
Build your worth, basically.
Yeah, really.
Right.
And I didn't
want to do that. Didn't appeal to you.
No, I didn't want to work 100-hour weeks. I mean, the start of my business, it was when I got my first shop, there was days I'd get there at 4 a.m. and leave. One night it was like 3:30 a.m. Just because I had to. I was a one-man show and I had to get work done.
Right. And you had to pay the bills.
It was what it was.
You just got married, right? You were
like, so it's like we were still in the apartment. My overhead was super low. But when that's another thing with detailing is to a certain extent, I never know how bad something is until I start on it. So it's not like I can say, like, we're still chasing the record of 7 paint corrections in one day. That was when I was alone, but it was, a 4 a.m. to 3 a.m. You know what I mean? It wasn't
24 hours straight.
Yeah,
basically.
it wasn't a 9-hour day. So, and you really just don't. Some are like, wow, this is going to turn out really nice. This person took care of the vehicle. And then there's some like, you're like,
have you ever had to turn down someone because, one, you either had too much business, or 2, like the car was just so bad, you're like, I'm not going to spend my time on this?
Actually, I've done just about everything because of the fact that when I was, just starting, got my first shop, the one thing that didn't click with that first shop was undercoatings and any type of paint work, because they were like, oh, we can smell it, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, I'll move then.
Right.
Went to the second shop, which was a lot shadier and a worse location and all this kind of stuff. But it was, me and Cole were talking about it earlier too, winter months and what you can do to combat them. When I was, year 1 or 2, I didn't turn down anything.
Yeah.
Some guy comes to me and says, hey, I got these, leather replacement seats for my Wrangler. Will you install them? Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
I'll charge you this per hour. I'll figure it out. I'll be honest with you. I've never done it.
I love
but I'm
that
sure
mindset.
But I'm sure it can't be difficult if I just take your seats out, take them apart, take the cloth off, and reclip leather on. Like, it can't be rocket science.
Right.
But like, that's how it was.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody said, hey, can you do this? Yeah, I'll figure it out. Unless it was something like mechanical, like I could kill this person if I don't do it correct.
You're like, I'm not touching that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, no, I never turned down business. The only time I would is
if it was Cole.
Well, nowadays,
he doesn't even comp me detail. Okay, that's a different story. Yeah,
I still don't think I ever would. But if it's some type of service that the person no matter what we do, and typically I can read people, no matter what we do, it's not going to be good enough.
Yep.
When I've done vehicles that, I mean, there was a vehicle that we did last summer that was broken into like 3 or 4 times. I counted 16 times on glass because of the broken windows and stuff like that. I ripped out all the seats. I power washed them and everything.
Right.
And we did it for like 3 days, worked on this vehicle. And we, to be frank, probably lost money.
Yeah.
Because of how much time
you to put into it. Right.
Yeah. So if it's something like that where it's just not going to be worthwhile from a business standpoint, then I would. But I haven't had that happen in I don't know how long.
Well, and you've got a very, just to that point, you've got, and I think we dive into this, but you've got a very niche, like what you focus on, right? I mean, you're not super all over the place. The way you I know you've built out your brand, through social media accounts and just through networking and grinding, but you've got a very niche and like specific offering to what you do. I know you do several different things, but it's not like you're again, when you first started, you were, I'll do it. I want the business. I need to pay the bills. I've got a wife. I'm building my business. And now you're at the point where, from what I understand, are you at the point now where you're kind of honing on what you're very good at, and then you think more about, okay, if I want to add something, what goes into it?
Yeah, just because I had to been probably 2 or 3, realized we started doing lift kits. We started doing pretty much anything that I could get my hands on to make money.
Yep.
To, increase revenue and survive. I've built my network, I'd say, far enough to the point where I can call somebody, get a wholesale rate, and have them do it and still profit a little bit, because obviously I'm taking care of all the logistics and everything like that, but still make it profitable without even touching the vehicle.
So you're acting as like a middleman, kind of, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's more so rims, lift kits, tires, tonneau covers. We'll install those because they're pretty simplistic. But anything of that nature, exhaust, anything like that, I can hook you up and get it done. But it's still gonna. I mean, they're still gonna save money if they went to the direct place that I wholesale with. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But we're obviously making a little bit too, because
right.
That's why you're in business.
Well, right. You're not in business to lose money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, occasionally we'll break even for close friends and family and stuff like that. But even then, it's like you're doing it for somebody that, so.
So you mentioned growing up, like you weren't like a big car fanatic or anything like that. And you discussed like I was willing to take on any type of business that I could get my hands on. Like, how did you start to learn how to fix some of these, things or build some of these things? Like, was it YouTube or?
Before I got on a buffer, which was scary to me because the premise of paint correction, if you don't know, is combining, I mean, there's so much that goes into it, but in simplistic terms, it's combining the speed of the buffer, the pad, how coarse, how plush, how whatever what you're trying to do. Plush would be polish, and then coarse would be cutting.
Yep.
And then obviously the compound or the polish.
Yep.
So if you take, a really coarse pad and really coarse polish and you're running it on high RPMs, you can go through clear coat. But the premise of paint correction is it's like sanding wood is how I usually explain it. It's like you're not going to start at 450 grit. You're going to start at 80 grit, and you're going to work your way to that. So that's the premise of it, is coarse to medium to polish, and obviously working different speeds. So I did a lot of research on, first of all, what buffer I was going to get, what polisher, and how to correctly do it. So it was trial and error on my own vehicles or families, my mom's, dad's, whoever's vehicle I could get my hands on to figure it out. And then from there, wet sanding, which is even more, but that's the most abrasive way you could attack something, was, taking something that even if you ruined it, it's not a big deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and to this day, still, I've never went through clear coat, knock on wood.
You should have said that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an art. It's doing enough to make the vehicle as perfect as possible, but not taking away too much to the point of I can't even buff this next year.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's that happy medium.
So this research that you mentioned, was it just
YouTube.
Google search, YouTube? Yeah, right,
just
right.
watching people do it.
YouTube University.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a couple people on YouTube that like ammo detailing. He's unreal and has product lines. He has all this stuff. But I mean, he'll take something out of a barn that hasn't been touched in 50 years and make it look like it was on a showroom floor 2 days ago. Wow. So just going through that process of, okay, I need to do this to even get my buffer on it and not ruin it, was super helpful. And I put a lot of hours into that. And a
little bit of everything. You learn from YouTube. You talk to people. Yeah. And you said you trial and error. You were trying stuff out.
That's life, right?
Yeah,
Trial
you
and
have
error.
right, man. Trial by fire.
Experience, really. I mean, I have 2 amazing employees, and obviously, Jeremy is one of my employees. He's been with me for just over 2 years, and then Justin over a year. And I wouldn't be anywhere, like, we wouldn't have made the leaps and bounds that we've made without them. Like, no bullshit. They're lifesavers. But even them, like, we're going through the process of how are you going to get better? You know, I'm always going to be a step ahead of both of you because I've done it longer.
Right.
I have more experience, and that's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
But how are we going to make Jeremy, who's very proficient with pretty much everything we do, better?
Right.
Because that's the end goal.
That's good for him, and it's good for you.
Yeah,
it's good for you.
It's good for everybody.
Right.
If
It's
you're more
a win-win.
efficient, if you know how to do it better, and then Justin, the same thing. Work, get you experience. During the winter months is super nice for us on that aspect too, because the first winter I had Jeremy, I mean, shoot, I had him bring up his own car in, which was I think it was a Grand Prix. It was an older car, and we just worked on it.
Right.
Straight up. Like, did 3 different methods.
Basically practiced on it. You practiced on it.
Yeah. So, and same with Justin this past winter. Well, it's still winter, but it's a clear bra. So
I
it's
don't know what that means.
A clear bra is a film.
Sounds like
it's a clear wrap.
That sounds
It's a
bougie.
clear wrap.
I got a clear bra. On my Lamborghini.
It's a
I'll
clear.
have one
It's
day.
a clear wrap.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Okay.
But I started talking to him, and he's like, "So, like, what do you do? What do you, you know?"
The go-to, yeah.
And I gave him a business card, and he legitimately said, "I already know you. I was about to call you." And I was like, "Damn, that's cool."
That is
so.
awesome.
One of my other customers that has a Ferrari 488, a different Ferrari 488, gave him my business card, and he was like, "Dude, I was about to call you." So I connected with him. Now we do his vehicles every once in a while. He sold the Lamborghini Huracan. He's getting a Ferrari Pista, but it's being trusted with that type of vehicle. You almost have to like I had to up insurance.
Oh yeah.
When we started working on that kind of stuff, because like if anything were to go wrong, which is not very likely, but I don't want to be. That's a lot of money
For sure.
you know. Yeah. But the cool thing is most of the customers that own cars like that, super down to earth people. You would never know that they are well off.
I love people like that, where you would never guess.
It's awesome. And there's some customers that don't let you post anything,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Yeah. Business is business, right? At the end of the day.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, you know, trying to not have those assets attached to you, I understand it. I get it.
Yep.
Like, you don't want people, when you
That's your private business.
when you act so humble
Yep.
and you would never know that you would have that kind of thing. Like, I get that.
Yeah, some people just don't want to draw additional
100%.
attention to themselves, even though
100%.
they've got a super nice car.
Yeah.
Have you detailed a car, done any work on a car for, like a big time celebrity or?
He's smiling.
No.
Not yet, that is. Not yet.
No, actually,
Well, we're trying to get Joe Mixon on here. And I know he's got a Lambo. So
no, I don't.
I got your boy.
Speaking it into existence. It's going to happen.
Hey, Joe, I got your guy.
Yeah.
Who?
Joe Mixon.
Running back
he's
for the
got the
Cincy
Urus.
Bengals.
We've done a Urus.
Yeah, he's got the
Red one.
Lamborghini. He's got a track
Urus.
hawk. He's got a track hawk.
Okay.
Tahoe. So
I
Joe,
think he's gonna be like, why do you know what kind of cars I have?
he's my parents' neighbor.
Researching him.
At Joe Main Mixin.
Don't be dropping too many details out there. We're just
I know,
talking
right?
about being, somewhat private.
I know, but I want Joe on
It's
the
all
show.
good. Well, I know we're gonna have him on.
I'm just thinking. All I can think about when he talked about these cars is that I remember when I was like 19 and I went and spent like $99 to drive a Ferrari around a parking lot, and he gets to go to these people's houses.
You can never really compete unless it's, well, I mean, sports even. It's not a one-man team. But you can't really compete against anyone else to make yourself better. I feel like then you're just comparing, period, like point blank.
Yeah.
If you are knowledgeable enough and understand what you're doing, you can always set a goal for yourself, whether it's, I mean, we just went down to your basement and there's weights.
Yep.
So let's say you're shoulder pressing 235s on, or a 35 on each side.
Yep.
How are you going to get to the 45? You know what I mean? Like, you can set goals each day to achieve the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just I think it's the healthy way to do it, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise you just get caught up in a web of, okay, well, now I competed against this person and I'm quote unquote better, but there's no facts that say you're better.
Right.
And then you try and find the next thing.
Well, I think
so. It's
to your point. I mean, you can't when you're competing against others, and again in sports, it's a team thing. You could be playing tennis, right? You're competing against one, but but you compete in a different aspect there. I like that, and my mind even goes to how would you, like, if let's say you're on social media, right, and you're competing with this other business that's posting a bunch of stuff. Well, how is that competition? Like, it's not
unless
right.
Your neighbor,
right? I mean, what analytics go behind that competition? Is it, you could start going, well, is it followers? Is that our competition? But then that's one of those surface level things that really maybe doesn't hold a lot of weight, right? So it's like when you try trying to compete on that level, and I liked your answer. You're just comparing.
Yeah, you're not competing.
You're not competing.
There's
but if
nothing that you could factually say from a detailer in Idaho versus somebody here that would definitively prove that you are better.
Right.
Right.
Because there's
so many variables, as you
what's
mentioned.
what's your market look
I
like?
like that answer.
I don't
right.
care if you're bringing in, let's say they're bringing in $400,000 in revenue and you're bringing in $500,000 in revenue. Okay, but you got 5 employees, they got 2. Like,
right, you don't know all the details.
They're winning.
You don't know all the details.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't know. You can't. Even if you do know all the details, there's way too many variables.
Right. Just focus on you and your business, right? At the end of the day.
I just thought that was
compete against yourself and set goals.
Now you can learn from others, and that's how
100%.
I like to use Instagram. And I'm not perfect. Yeah, sometimes I catch myself comparing, like, oh, I wish I had this.
Everyone
yada, yada.
does.
Yeah, exactly. We're human beings, but like the way that I use Instagram is I try to use it as a source of inspiration. Like, oh, I like what this person is doing. Like, how can I incorporate some of the things that they're doing into my life?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not always easy, but it's definitely cool to kind of have that mindset when using like Instagram or other social media platforms, instead of saying like, oh, I wish I had that. Well, how are you going to
figure it out?
Exactly.
I hate the saying, must be nice.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Because like you see people like use that term when they
on this episode of Unscripted Exchanges. Again, thanks Heath.
Thank you, Heath.
Thank you, Hayden, for being an awesome co-host. Jimmy, you still suck.
Jimmy, we love you. You're family.
Yeah, you're not. You're this close. But we just want to say thank you for listening. Thanks for engaging with us. Continue to let us know what you want to hear. If you want to be a part of the show, feedback, comments, and continue the journey with us. We appreciate it.
We got a lot of good stuff in the works. God bless. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.